Life for All presents Daily Food Series Genesis, the Beginning. Title of Book 2, The Creation of Man by Pedro. Week 4, The Creation of Man. Tuesday, the need for human cooperation in God's work of restoration. Read with prayer. For we are God's fellow workers. You are God's field. You are God's building. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 9. We have seen that the joy and the normal life of the early church lasted only 6 years. Soon after, there arose persecution from the Jews and the Judaizers. By the end of the first century, the church had degraded. The leaders of the church no longer wanted to receive the ministry of John because their concern was the struggle for preeminence so as to achieve a prominent position. As time went by, the spiritual decline of the church reached its deepest point with the church in Thyatira. Later, the Lord initiated a restoration through the church in Sardis, but it was a very weak restoration. After centuries of history, the Lord began the work of restoring the church, represented by the church in Philadelphia. Today, we live under the grace of this restoration, and by God's mercy, we have reached a very precious point in our experience as the church. This point is the first item of the early church: to persevere in the word of the apostles and in the fellowship of that word. This is how the Lord has restored the reality of the Garden of Eden among us. We have this life of joy again. We are grateful to God for all that He has restored among us. After all the turmoil and tribulation we have experienced, we have a clear horizon today. Now it depends on each one's participation. We're not only children of Abraham, but also of Sarah. From Abraham, we inherit faith, and from Sarah, we inherit the heavenly Jerusalem. Therefore, we are not part of the earthly Jerusalem. We are part of the heavenly Jerusalem. We were brought forth by the Spirit and live in the Spirit. The Lord will fulfill His will through this church that is part of the heavenly Jerusalem. In the second chapter of Genesis, we read, "This is the history of the heavens and the earth when they were created, in the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens." Verse 4. Here we observe two stages. The first stage refers to the genesis of the heavens and the earth, the original creation described in the first chapter, verse 1, where the verb used is bada. The second stage refers to the restoration of creation on earth, hence the verb uses asha. When God made the dry land appear on the third day, He told the earth to produce grass, plants that yield seed, and fruit trees that yield fruit. Genesis chapter 1, verse 11. However, in the last verse we read, there were no plants of the field on the earth, for no grass of the field had sprouted, because God had not sent rain, and there was no man to till the ground. Chapter 2, verse 5. This shows us that from the beginning, God's action on earth is linked to the cooperation and participation of man. Therefore, let us get to work. Jesus said, "My Father has been working until now, and I have been working." John chapter 5, verse 17. And what about us? We cannot remain as spectators in the audience, just watching others do things. It is easy for those who are watching to criticize this or that because they're not working. Those who participate know the difficulty and do not criticize. Therefore, do not remain uncommitted. We are the building and the cultivated field of God, His co-workers. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 9. When man exists to work the land, God sends rain. If you work, the Lord sends rain. If you do not work, he does not send the rain. Why would God send rain if no one tills the ground? If we work diligently, God will send showers of blessings. We cannot stay in our comfort zone. On the contrary, we need to commit ourselves by accepting challenges by faith. God is so merciful that even when man is not willing to cooperate and he does not send rain, yet he sends a mist to ensure the minimum maintenance of life. Genesis chapter 2, verse 6. Even in the desert, where it does not rain, there is humidity in the morning. So there is some vegetation here and there, maintaining a little life, a little pasture for the animals. Are you content with this little? No, we want the Garden of Eden with all the green vegetation and full of joy. Nevertheless, for this to take place, we need to work.